Hey everyone, welcome back to part 3 of tips and tricks. I really hope you enjoyed the first and second part, including my other tutorials. And of course, if you do love the game, you can always take a look at my Let's Play, which is of the map that you currently see now. So let's get to it. What other cool tips and tricks we have? So let's start off with one basic one that I didn't mention before, is that you can actually use M and N to make small adjustments to increase and decrease the terrain itself. And I believe I mentioned this before, but sometimes it wasn't clear that you also use this not only for that, but to make rotations. But if you hold shift, it isn't the tips and tricks of the loading screen, but if you hold shift, you can make smaller adjustments. Yeah, some people don't read it, so here you go. So now, a very cool thing that quite a few people don't know is when you're actually buying, let's say, a train or a bus, right? So let's say we go here, right? And I want to buy a cargo, a type of a bus, or I want to buy a type of a cargo thing, right? Like this transport logs, steel planks, and construction materials. Same thing goes for the car transport, the trucks, right? You have this little thing here, so I can directly buy steel, and I can buy like 20 of steel if I want to directly without buying them and then assigning them. So this is a very quick way to actually assign the stuff that you want. So like I said, same applies for the cities themselves. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Now in terms of cities generally downgrade all roads. If they're going to be these type of roads, if you're going to have the large country road and if you're going to have the last guys at 100 kilometers an hour, they're always going to downgrade these roads. So if you want to build roads in the cities, you can maximum only build these guys at 70 kilometers an hour. So the 6-lane, 6th Street, and the large street, these are the ones you want to build in the city itself. They'll never be downgraded. In the city, you cannot build the really fast ones. And you know the moment the city border somehow reaches that, because you'll see it sort of extends. So automatically I know the city border is here. And it'll grow and grow over time as well. So that's something to keep in mind. You will always have to upgrade the roads in the city if you plan to actually transport your cargo and your resources the city needs by truck. Because at some point there's going to be a lot of traffic. So another word of advice is to start to upgrade the city roads from the beginning. So actually it supports six lanes and 4 lanes directly from the beginning. You have a lot of main intersections and a lot of other stuff. So let me show you an example of what I did here. Literally what I did here is I made all of them 6 lanes. This is a little bit to the extreme, but this way I'm guaranteed that I'll never have any traffic here. And in case I decide to start transporting trucks here, that they will never be stuck in traffic and spending a lot of time and costing me a lot of money. Because don't forget, the running costs keep clicking. It doesn't matter if they're wasting time in traffic, but they keep going up. So the faster that I make a move, the faster I make profit, the less cost I need to spend. Which of course substantially applies to trains, but the advantage of trains are they're not really stuck because of traffic. So that being said, if you're going to actually have 2 trains coming into a specific industry, if I'm going to have one train coming into, let's say, the coal and dropping it off here, right, because I need coal here, I'm going to have a train track, one of them, and then I realized the train track, for some reason, which is highly unlikely, it's not possible to increase the output, the production output. So I'm going to add another one, completely independent train. So I'm going to have one here, and I'm going to have another one here, let's say, right? And then I'm going to be like, you know what? I can't increase the output for some reason. I need to build another one. So I'm going to build another one there and another one there. Yes, I know it's a passenger line, right? It's supposed to be an industry line, but it's just for example. So I'm going to have 2 tracks doing the same thing, trying to export more. It doesn't work. It'll only still be supplying one of them, even if you have 2 independent supply chains, because it's connected still to the same station. So I believe it counts. I haven't spent time to test it if this works if I create a secondary station to supply to another location, but I believe it should. But in case you want to double up, it doesn't work. Same thing with truck lines. It doesn't work. As in the older Let's Play when I was still in the desert, I tried that. It just doesn't work. So that's good for you guys to know. Now, another thing that most of you don't know is that you can actually duplicate the trains that you build. So, for example, I decide to build a train, I don't know, this one, and I build a couple of passenger trains or cargo trains or whatever the hell it is, right? So this is the train that I designed. This button actually clones the train. So I can literally clone the train. I can make as many clones as I want, and there you go. I don't have to build the train over and over and over again, which saves a hell of a lot more time. So that's another cool thing to know. Now, in general, you got to understand there's low, middle, and high income. Again, this is what I hypothetically believe how the game mechanic is here. So when you're transporting people, the train is somehow the low income people, right? When you're transporting, let's say with a Boeing 747 or 737, that's like a mid-income. And if you're transporting people by Concorde, no, which only has capacity of 24, that's a very high income. So you can't expect to have a very high income percentage population in a town that probably has 200 people in it. You know what I'm saying? So if I have Shrewsbury, you know, it's 5,000 population. So I don't know, maybe I could get enough population to fill up a Concorde here. So if I stick in an airplane thing here, I could probably transport from this side of the road, from this side of the city to a completely another side of the map. And because the population is so high, the high probability of having more high income people here is pretty much guaranteed to at least fill up a Concorde. So if not, then I can always go with the standard passenger transports. Remember, the poorer people were going to pick the trains, and the guys that can afford it, they're going to pick the planes. And unfortunately, that's how life is. Though nowadays you can actually get some budget airlines that come on the same price, if not cheaper. But this is how it is in the game. So let's jump to another point. Another nice thing to do, especially in the beginning of the game when you still don't have a lot of money, when you build the trains, when you buy the trains, right? They actually have a life. Right? These things get old, and when they get old, you got to replace them. Now, a quick way to replace them, right, is that you don't need especially when you build the train. It means you select the locomotive, and you select, I don't know, 2 or 3 tanker thingies, and then you select, I don't know, some cargo thingies. So if it's manually built, if it's not these preset ones, right? The cool thing with this is, and I don't know, and I believe so, it might be bugged from their side or if it's intentionally designed, that after this train gets old, especially in the beginning, you don't need to replace the whole thing, right? Because there seems to be no penalty for the things that is dragging behind it, just the locomotive. So I don't need to replace all the passengers, oil, and all the other things. All I got to do is just replace the locomotive. So if you do it in the replacements, of course you'll have to replace all of them. But if you want to save a little bit of money in the beginning, just send it to the depot and manually just sell the locomotive and add a new locomotive while keeping all the same carriages. And this will save you quite a bit, especially in the beginning. Later on, you don't care. You can just replace all of it, you know. Anyways, it gives you this feeling, you know, why the hell not? I'm going to put new passenger cars after 30 years of service. So that's something pretty cool. Now, in terms of highways, right? Highways are very useful. I got a tip, I believe it was by Robert, that told me that you can actually use highways to flatten the land. So, for example, you see there's a hill here, and a fast way to do it is to literally stick a highway, right? And if I do something like that, and you see it does flatten the land. So then I can stick another one close by. So this is a pretty fast way to flatten the land, honestly, if you wanted to. You could use the damn highways themselves. Of course, you can then delete it and get rid of it. But this literally is a good, quick way to flatten the land. That being said, in terms of terrain, you have MNN also increases the size of this stuff, right? So you can increase actually the size of the cursor for the terrain adjustments, right? So that's another thing there. And now, in terms of the traffic lights, a lot of people are having issues in terms of placing the traffic lights in the ground, especially if it's very, very deep, right? And it is, of course, not the nicest thing to do, but you can place them. I'm just trying to remember where the hell is one of my deep roads. Here it is. Look how deep this is. So in terms of placing traffic lights under the ground, especially when it gets very deep, it's very hard. It technically works on the camera angle. So if I move my camera to the right, I'm going to place the traffic light to the right. And I can't really place it, you see, on the other side, right? It's not working. It's placing it on the right side of the left lane, but I want it on the other side. You have to just switch your camera angle to the other side, and now it places it on the left lane. If I switch it there, it's much harder to go there, but if I rotate the camera, it places it on the other side, exactly what I want. So you just turn the camera angle and you're going to get that. Now, in terms of the signals themselves, of course I play tons of them because I just couldn't be bothered to do it properly. But again, I was commented recently on one of my videos that isn't the most efficient thing, and yes, I know it's not. You should literally calculate the amount of trains you're going to have on the line and place only the traffic signals that you need. So for example, if I'm going to have 3 trains on this line, I have to include the traffic signal of each station is also counted. So literally I'm going to need to place only 2 traffic signals in the middle because I already have 1 at the station on each end. Now why I like to place tons more, because I don't know how much it's going to expand, how much it's going to go up, how much it's going to go down. It's a little bit hard to tell. Generally speaking, my lines don't need so much because you need them to be efficient. What I'm saying is you're going to keep adding trains to your mule line, but when you realize that there's a train waiting for another one to leave, and that happens very frequently, it means it's not efficient. There's no point to have that train there. Even though they're full, yes, it means you got to make another line. The fact that he's waiting is just wasting time. The fact that your trains are starting to wait before coming in, even if you have 10 of them on one mule line, it's very inefficient. You have to make them always moving with the minimum waiting time. And that brings me to another point. At some point in time, you're going to be able to transport a lot, and I mean tons of passengers, right? I have one here, I believe. This is like really my heavy lifter. And this guy, I don't know if it's this guy, yes it is. I have two of these guys, and they're transport 363 each, right? And they're full all the damn time. They're nearly full. And I have technically three of these guys, so the population does go a little bit crazy. And now, once you reach this point, this is what I'm saying, because everyone at some point is going to reach to this scale in size, you're going to realize there's no point to have so many because they're just going to be waiting to get into the station. So you just have to build more mule lines in parallel, right? But when this happens, when they reach to this capacity, you're going to realize that the trains don't fill up passengers and they leave very early. When that's the case and that happens, I believe when you start reaching over the 300 passenger mark, you're going to see they never fill up. You're going to have to go to the vehicles tab and you're going to see that the maximum waiting time can't be 3 minutes anymore. You can stick to 5 minutes. Now I only have 3 minutes here because I added another one. So somehow it compensates that I have another one. But on some of my lines, I literally have already 5 minutes because there's not enough time for them to actually load all the passengers in. And now when I realize that this scales up a little bit more and I have even more passengers, that the 3 minute mark between all the three won't be enough, I'll actually increase the loading time to 5, which again reconfirms what I said in terms of logic, why you shouldn't just keep adding more and more trains, because at some point they're going to be waiting there longer. So you don't need so many trains, you just have to double up the lines themselves. So that's something that should make it a hell of a lot more efficient in terms of the loading lines and the mule lines themselves. So that's pretty much it. Also, the city layout, right? We did discuss it before. The city layout is when you do have money. It's good to crisscross it like you see here and build the railway stations all around it. Now, the cool thing is the most efficient way is that these things have a range of 3 to 3, right? So technically what you could do is literally every 3 wide of 8 lane stations, you can place another one and they have all the coverage. Now, the nice advantage of keeping them nice and small, the towns, which I started doing a little bit later on when I started to learn it a little bit more, is that I don't need trams at all. It's pretty much it can cover the whole town itself, which is of course what I'm trying to do. And once that town completely expands and I have massive everything, then I'll slowly allow it to expand itself. So it is up to you if you want to go in this way. But yeah, the older towns, of course, I kept it the way it is because it's just a hassle. But if you want to play it as efficient as possible and not to use any trams from bringing the populace from outside of the edge of the town to the station itself, you can make the towns forcefully smaller later on. And that brings us to our last point, which is waypoints. Now, waypoints are pretty important, especially if you want to use it on the train tracks and the bus lines and the truck lines and everything else. Because on the train lines, even though if you have a properly set up mule line, if we take a look at the mule line here, right, we literally see that's going down and going up. But sometimes, especially if the track is very long, like this one's really long, they sort of mess up. For some reason, they actually might come back on the wrong way around. So what you're going to need to do here is you're going to have to add like waypoints for the train to go. And this is very useful, like I said, to use it on the longer track. So we have Chesterley Street, so we're going to do it. Then we're going to add stations. So from Chesterley Street, right, we're going to literally add stations. So on the way out, it's got to go on the right side. So we're going to literally add, you can add the signals as a waypoint. And I can go a little bit further down the line, for example, like here. And I can add another signal on the way there. And then on the way back, I'm going to add signals on this side of the track. Wow, it's a really, really long track, like I said. So for sure, it's going to mess up at some point here. The trains will go to shit. Again, this is probably a bug from their side, but I don't know if this is something that they can fix it or not. But both cases, if you do have a long train line, I suggest you add the waypoints. Of course, you can use the signals for waypoints in terms of fixing this issue. Thing I thought would be applied to buses, but unfortunately they don't actually have a waypoint. So if I go to the roads, I can't actually select any waypoint. There is no like indicator here. So I don't know, I'm sure someone would like to mod it in, and if so, or if the game itself, the base game itself would be cool, because that'd be great. Because technically what I could do is I could stick a waypoint here, and this way my line, instead of going through the center of the town, I could put a waypoint here, a waypoint here, a waypoint here, and around the town itself, forcing it to go in a different way, in a much faster way. It won't take the default fastest way through the town itself. So, but of course this still doesn't exist, and if any of you modders are out there, or if you devs are listening, this would be a nice small addition to actually waypoint the trucks and the buses away from the fastest road possible, because the fastest road possible doesn't mean it is the fastest at some point. It just becomes clogged with so much damn traffic. So this is it for this tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, give us a thumbs up if you liked it, and see you guys in another part, or leave any new tips and tricks that I might have left out below, and we could create another fourth part. See ya!